Okay, so we're going to talk about EcoBuddies, and EcoBuddies is a curriculum for elementary classrooms, and it's tied into the fundraising through recycling program that we do at Funding Factory. Just to give you a little background on myself, I'm the program manager here at Funding Factory, and I have my master's in education from Stanford University. And next, you'll hear from Karen Bridneck-Slate. She's a managing editor at Learning Magazine, master's in liberal studies from University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and we're really, really happy to be here. First, I'm going to go through a little bit of the evolution of recycling and education, and then Karen's going to talk you more through some of the lessons and how they were created. So we're going to have some question time at the end, so if you find yourself needing to ask a few questions, please hold those till the end. So let's talk about Funding Factory a little bit. Funding Factory has actually been around for quite a while, since 1997. Here we go. We became kind of as an aftermarket business. We weren't really in the business of serving education, but there seemed to be a large industry for ink and toner sales. And because of this, a lot of companies were buying and selling them, and that's what our company did. But one time someone called us up and said, hey, I have all of these toner cartridges and I don't really need the money for them, but I'd like to donate them to a school. How can I do that? And that was in 1996. And from that phone call, Funding Factory was born. And since then, we've grown to be a huge company. We're serving more than 50,000 schools and nonprofits across the country. So we wish we could keep fundraising for recycling as our idea, but we can't. It was someone else's great idea. But since we've been doing it, we've been collecting small e-waste items like ink and toner cartridges, cell phones, laptops, digital cameras, MP3 players, and of the sort from schools and nonprofits, and then we pay for those items. And we're a free program, so the money that you make is all your money when you work with Funding Factory. So what about education? Well, we raise funds for schools primarily. I mean, our largest constituents are schools, and in particular, elementary schools. We work with more than 6,000. But we worked with churches and charities too. A lot of our schools are religious schools, so they've got a church and a school attached. One thing we find about our causes, they're all independent. Most of the schools are working on a local level, on a school level, or a classroom level. So a lot of the causes that they're raising funds for are very personal to them. But last year, Funding Factory dispersed $1.5 million to the causes that are involved with us. And it ranges from 3-day walks to, entire school districts, technology programs. And again, in particular, elementary schools are our highest earners, because they have such an active, engaged student and parent body. They gain support from community businesses, and they really kind of are the torchbearers, I think, for collection programs, in particular when it comes to recycling. And I wanted to give you a fun little background of some of the fundraising by recycling. We found some great research on this. During World War I, the federal government started this waste reclamation services, spawning the motto, don't waste waste, save it. And they started collecting these materials because, I hate to say it, they needed it for the war. They needed more metal. They needed more scraps to serve this purpose. And it's unfortunate, but it really was the first venture into recycling in the United States. During World War II, it actually started taking a turn for, hey, do recycling because it's going to be good for your community. You can sell these items and give these items to charity. So this idea started coming up about recycling for charities. And in particular, schools, again, were these collection points in the community, and recycling projects were often launched through elementary schools. Again, because students, have the opportunity to go home to their parents and influence their parents and go out into the community and gain support. Now, it's not really clear if there was curriculum out there at the time, but certainly the act of doing was a learning experience in itself. So why elementary education as a vehicle for recycling these items, and in particular for fundraising? I thought this was a really nice quote that kind of sums up why we're doing this. Once children are shown how recycling is an effective method for dealing with their old and broken electronic devices, it's a lesson that will last them a lifetime. And I think if any of you are in my age demographic, which is my early 30s, you remember being in elementary school and middle school and learning about recycling and making paper and pulping all the paper up. And, it was part of our upbringing. And I think now as adults, it's just what we do. And if there's not a recycling option, we're confused as to why there's not. So after the war, things kind of slowed down in terms of recycling because there was a huge economic boom in the country. But the 1970s really revived recycling. In particular, Gaylord Nelson, who was a senator in Wisconsin, he coined the day Earth Day, April 22nd, and the first day was 1970. Also, the EPA was established in the 70s, and that iconic recycling symbol we've all come to understand and know was designed by a college student who was participating in a national contest to create this item. So what about e-waste? As we said before, we collect e-waste, and why is it this new frontier of recycling? I like to think of it that way because here we are living in this tech-saturated culture. We're surrounded by e-waste all the time. You're watching this webinar probably on your computer. We all have our cell phones sitting here near us, I'm sure. We're surrounded by electronics. And not only are we surrounded by them, but we're surrounded in a culture in the United States in particular where new and, the newest and best electronics are always what's sought after. And that's unfortunate because those electronics have to go somewhere when they're done. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Mobile phones in particular, there are currently 4.1 billion mobile phones in the world, with an estimated 125 million that are discarded each year. These are mobile phones made up out of metal and plastic and lots of valuable materials. Some mobile phones are not as valuable as others, but we certainly have a wealth of mobile devices in our world, and many that are kind of ending up in places that are not so good. So electronics in education, this was a great statistic. By 2016, we'll have a 1-to-1 mobile device situation in the United States. So for 55,200,000 devices, that's how many students will be using devices by just a few years away, in 3 years. If you take those devices and you stretch them out over a 13-year period of education, if you consider a refresh of every 3 years, that's 237.5 million devices. And then the 16.7 million devices that teachers will use, that's 254.2 million devices. And I actually didn't even put this on a slide, but, an average amount, a mobile device could be worth in the aftermarket could range anywhere from $50 to $300, because as these items are discarded, they are reused, and that's the market that FundingFactory is in. That's why we're able to operate as a business and provide a free program to schools. So managing global e-waste, this is what we do. We collect all these items and we remanufacture them for reuse. So they don't just get used once and go into a landfill or get used once and go into a recycling program. They're actually remarketed. So things that have parts that can be used again are used again. But the things that actually can't be remanufactured or reused are reduced to their base materials through responsible recycling, both as, a lot of things are kind of smelted down to the base metals that are in them, and other stuff goes through a waste to energy program. So really the end of life for electronics is pretty positive. The downside is that some of the afterlife situations around the globe have not been so positive. And when things go overseas in particular, I'm sure you've all seen stories. I know 60 Minutes did a story a number of years ago about how materials were going overseas and being burnt in open fields and releasing noxious gases into the air and into the ground. And that's something that we have nothing to do with. We're an R2 certified recycler. We're ISO 14001 recycled, and all of our recycled mobile phones in particular go downstream to eSteward certified recyclers. So, we're really on the good side of this. So, so it's a good choice. So kids today, I was thinking about what is it like to be a kid today in elementary school. You would have never known a world without mandated recycling. The first mandate was in 1990, and that was New Jersey. They know the blue bin. Everybody kind of knows that iconic blue bin, the recycling symbol, and they're likely to have parents that recycle at home. They also have their own or share a personal electronic device. So I feel that this is, from Funding Factory's perspective, we provide this service. We operate it for free. Schools, nonprofits collecting these items, shipping them to us. We pay for the items. It's a fundraiser. It's really great for that purpose. But we also see our responsibility that it's not just the recycling aspect, it's not just the fundraising aspect. It's letting kids know the importance of recycling, the importance of taking these items and giving them a second life. So we see that as our responsibility to this generation, especially one so tech saturated. But that's my part of it, and I'm going to turn it over to Karen right now because we're going to talk a little bit more about the curriculum itself.
What I'm going to talk a little bit about is just how this curriculum came to be and what the relationship is between the mailbox and Funding Factory. And let me make sure we've got our technical things worked out here because, there we go, okay. First of all, just let me tell you a little bit about our team at the Education Center, the Mailbox Magazine. Our staff is made up of former teachers. We recently tallied up how many years of teaching experience we have between us, and we got up to about 120 years of teaching experience. And that's just the staff that's in our building. We work with a network of teachers across the country. We talk to them on a daily basis to brainstorm, to test things, to talk things through. So we have our in-house experience and then this whole network of teachers who help us, and that helps us work with companies like the Funding Factory. Our history is we were founded by a husband and wife team. He was a principal, she was a kindergarten teacher, and sort of in their dinner time conversations, they realized that teachers need a way to share ideas. Now this is 40 years ago, and so the way you did it then was through the mail. And so they decided to start a magazine, and they called it The Mailbox because they were literally going to share the ideas that teachers send in via the mail. And that's what they did. The mailbox took off. It struck a chord with teachers from the very beginning. And they literally published the ideas that came in the mail. And so that was the beginning of it all. That spun off into Teachers Helper magazine, into Learning magazine, and into relationships like what we have with Funding Factory, where we work together to bring ideas to teachers. Basically, we all still have a mailbox at our house, but things have changed. The way teachers share ideas has changed. The mailbox, of course, now has a website and apps and books and magazines and all those kinds of things. But it's a different world. We can email it, we can text it, we can do whatever, and it's all a lot faster. So we've taken our experience and put it into that new world, and we formed partnerships with companies like the Funding Factory. And what their goal is to talk to teachers and to provide materials to teachers, but materials that are meaningful, not just another thing to read, another thing to deal with, another piece of paper that's going to sit in on your desk or an email in your inbox. And so we take our educational experience and really think about what do teachers need. With a message like e-waste recycling is something we need to educate both teachers and students about. And so we take our expertise with education and with teachers, and we combine it with the very valuable information about e-waste recycling, and we turn that into a curriculum that Funding Factory provides for free to teachers and that we can all share. And let's see. Oh, there's our little heart. Okay. So our goal with the curriculum, number one, was to address the Common Core. The Common Core is a reality. Depending on where you live, it's either here or it's coming very quickly, with the exception of just a few places in the country. So that was first and foremost, because we know that teachers don't have time for a lot of extra things. They've got to hit those skills. Our next goal was to provide materials that are engaging and fun. The mailbox doesn't do boring skill and drill pages. They have a purpose. Certainly, they have a role in education, but that's not what we choose to do. Some of our other goals are to spread the word about e-waste recycling. It's a new concept to a lot of people, teachers and students alike. And basically to remind teachers and students and parents as well that this is a way to earn money for your school that you don't have to go out and do a time-consuming fundraiser for. I think everybody who's had a child go through school knows, oh boy, here come the fundraisers. Well, guess what? Here's one where you don't have to sell anything. You just have to collect and put it in the box. And so it's really a powerful idea for parents to realize, oh, this is how we can raise money for our school. Well, this is great. We've done our curriculum in a couple of releases. We did our first release this spring, and the second release is going out right now. That first release was really focused on starting that foundation and teaching students and teachers about what is e-waste. You know, it's not a concept that's kind of second nature to everybody. Some people have never even thought about what happens to their cell phone when they're done with it. And so that first level was really teaching students and teachers to think about what is this and what can I do with it. The second release is taking a slightly different approach, and it's getting kids kind of into the driver's seat more as far as their school's e-waste recycling program goes. Having them take the lead in learning about it and helping to run it and explaining what it is and advertising it, just getting them really involved in the program so that they can spread the word, they can spread the message, they can talk to their neighbors, their friends, their grandparents, you know, to find out, well, what do you do with your printer cartridges when they're done? Well, you know what I can do with them? I can take them to my school and we can earn some money. And so the second release really puts kids in the driver's seat with that and gets them really invested into the program. Here we go. We approach our projects by first looking at the Common Core. You know, what is it the teachers need? What's going to make sense for teachers? And then how can we incorporate a message like e-waste recycling into that in a way that makes sense for everybody? So we put all those pieces together, and that's how we come up with the curriculum, and that's how we worked with the FundingFactory to create the materials that are available now and are soon to be available. Oh, and there's the Common Core logo. And depending on your state, you could be in your first or second year of Common Core implementation. You may be looking at a 2014 or even a 2015 implementation, but regardless, with the exception of those very few states, it's coming. And so now is the time to really start loading up on the free ideas that are out there, like the curriculum that's available from FundingFactory. You know, go ahead and get a hold of those materials, download them, and start working them into your curriculum. There's nothing better than getting free ideas that are going to address the needs that are very real in the classroom and, you know, coming very quickly. And it's hard to do. It's hard to find good ideas for some of the Common Core standards because it's just new to so many people. What you're going to see in front of you is one of the sample lessons we wanted to show you. This is a pre-K through grade 1 lesson. And what kids do here is, you'll see on the right there's a little shape there. The kids decorate that to look like themselves, and there's an e-waste pledge on there that they sign. And so even the very youngest students can write their names there. And then in the middle you see the booklet pages. So they make a little booklet about what is e-waste. And this is so empowering for the kids because they make this little booklet, they've personalized it to look like themselves, and then they get to take it home and share it. And they get to be the teachers because mom and dad may very well say, e-waste, what is that? And so they get to teach their parents about it, and they get to spread the message, and they get to be the ones who are basically the teacher. And so kids love to make these booklets. It's a really great experience for them. It's great for their literacy skills, and it's a fun thing that they love to do. So that's a sample of one of the pre-K through grade 1 activities. Let's see if I can get to, there we go. For the grades 2-3, one of the samples we wanted to show you, if you look on the right-hand side, you see that little green headband. This activity is basically kind of a fun takeoff on the game called Headbands that you may have played. We've got a list of vocabulary words there that have to do with e-waste recycling. And the teacher asks for a volunteer. the volunteer puts on that little headband, and then but they can't see the word that's on it. And then the rest of the class is going to give them hints about what the word is. So they're getting to work in some of that domain-specific vocabulary, that technical wording, and it also gets them up, it gets them out of their seats, it gets them moving around, and they get to, guess the word and just get moving and have a little bit of fun while they're still building those skills. For grades 4 or 5, what you're seeing is some of the brand new materials that are just coming out now, and Erica can tell us if those are on the website yet or if they're still to come, but they really are brand new. What you see for this grades 4 or 5 lesson, the kids make a wanted poster with one of the pieces of e-waste that can be collected. So it gets them involved in writing, it gets them a little bit of a creative outlet, but they also develop some speaking skills because they write some announcements or some little messages to read during morning announcements. So it also works in some of those listening and speaking skills that are also important in the Common Core. And the last sample I'm going to show you is for grade 6-8. With this new release, there are these new grade 6-8 activities. And the one that you see in front of you, the students are going to make brochures. And so they plan, they write, they research, they whittle it down into that message. They can use those brochures to distribute to family, to friends. They could take them to a local business to find out if that business could be donating their e-waste to the school. One of the things that I thought was really fun about this was that one of the creative extensions that go with it are that the kids then write tweets based on their brochures. And so they take this whole brochure that they've done and then they have to really target that message and whittle it down to 140 characters. And they, to do that and to have an effective message, they really have to understand the content and really have to understand what they're talking about to be able to have a targeted message in so few characters. And it's something obviously that they think is fun to do too. So that gives you a little view into some of the materials that are available now and some of the materials that are coming soon. And of course, they all feature these really fun and friendly characters that FundingFactory has developed. As far as how to use the materials, there are a lot of different ways you can do that. They tie in really nicely if you're doing a school-wide kickoff for your e-waste recycling program. I would definitely suggest working them in throughout the year just to have those reminders coming home of, oh yeah, we have to send those printer cartridges in. That's right. So it gives parents a way to, it gives a teacher a way to remind the parents about the program. And since all the activities are building Common Core skills, it's very much on target for the teacher. So, she's taking care of two things at once there. And then you can absolutely target the activities to special events. So, there's Earth Day and there's America Recycles Day. There are lots of other fun events through the year. I put a little list there of some of them, including one that was just last week. And those are just a fun way to remind people about the program, remind them of what they need to do, how they need to do it, where that collection bin is, and just how they can participate. It can be a really quick thing, but those seasonal tie-ins are just a nice way to make sure you keep coming back to it throughout the school year and reminding everybody on how they can participate. As far as evaluating the lessons, each one has an evaluation piece. I really think one of the ways you're going to evaluate the success is by looking at your FundingFactory collection bin. If the e-waste is coming in, if kids are talking about it, if they're aware of it, if they're pointing it out to people, if they're reminding others what to do with it, then you were successful. Not only did you build Common Core skills and build the skills that the kids have to have, but you also have a really successful low-maintenance fundraiser that's good for the earth, and you're building habits that kids are going to use throughout their lives in terms of raising their awareness of that e-waste and making sure that habit of recycling e-waste is built early. So that's a little walk through the curriculum, how it came to be and what we put into it. And I am going to turn things back over to Erica.
Thanks for participating, everybody. And now I'm just going to open the floor for questions. We can take them if you raise your hand. There's a question from Linda. What about the East Coast? Anyone from here? Is there anyone here from the East Coast? If you are, you can raise your hand if you have something to share, and I can unmute you. Or,
Erica, this is Karen. I just have a
yeah,
quick question. As far as the
sure.
newest materials, do you have an estimate on when those will be available to teachers?
Yes. So, in terms of receiving these materials, they're available for free download on our website now. The first phase that we released last spring. So, if you're not using it already, you can download the first phase right now. The second phase is actually almost complete. It should be up on our website probably by the end of this month for sure, by the end of October.
Okay.
So there's plenty to get started with, and I think that you'll have. I think that you can, if you can wait a couple weeks, the second part is going to be great. And I actually noticed that you had America Recycles Day on there, Karen, and I think that's great. Like that's a great day if you're not doing it already to kick off your recycling program because America Recycles Day comes from Keep America Beautiful. There's just a lot of really great resources that they have, but it's a nice message to say, hey, you know what? We're going to take up the cause of e-waste recycling now at our school, and it's actually going to benefit the school, not just for the environment, but and for the kids' education, but also with fundraising. So that's a nice day to kick it off, and that's coming up
Hmm.
November 15th.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's so powerful to have a special day like that that you can center your activities around and just get everybody focused on it.
Yep. And there's a question here. How much is the curriculum? The curriculum is free, Joanne. It's and it's free to sign up for Funding Factory. All you have to do is go to our website, which is fundingfactory.com/EcoBuddies. And then you can read about the curriculum there and just register your school or your classroom. You'll receive a kit in the mail that has all the free materials that you're going to need to start your recycling program. But the curriculum is available for instant download as a PDF. So it's totally free. Let's see what
Erica, do you
else.
want to take a second to introduce some of the characters that are on the screen right now? I just think they are so cute and they're so appealing.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so the main character there, that is Owen the octopus. And we picked him as our main character because octopus have or octopi, they have ink. They use ink. And so he's kind of your main character to make your students think about ink. And then we have Miss Shelley, Miss Taylor the turtle. She's to the right there. There's Zelda the bear. There's Carlos the crab. Chloe the chipmunk. We have our two little starfish named Gus and Jordan. And then there's Gavin the goat in the background. We actually have a whole plan that maybe goes into the future in terms of maybe having some eco bandits that are the stubborn non-recyclers out there that the eco buddies have to help educate. So you may see some of that coming in the future. But yeah, the characters were created by an artist that's here in Erie, Pennsylvania, where we're based. And she does lots of wonderful artwork for children. She teaches painting classes. She sells her paintings. She's illustrated children's books. And she created all these characters exclusively for us. So we hope to use them a little bit more. But thanks for bringing that up, Karen. It's nice to introduce the characters. And there's a question from Constance. Yes, the presentation will be made available afterwards. I can email it to everyone, and I also recorded it. So if you want to listen to it, I'll be making that available too. And I think I'll be able to email you with that information. Are there smaller EcoBuddies bins? That's another question. Right now, the EcoBuddies bins are rather large. They're they would fit comfortably in a classroom or in a lobby or anything like that. In terms of smaller bins, no. But as a recycling company, as a company that encourages people to reuse, I would say get a box, invite your class to decorate it. You can maybe print out some of the EcoBuddies characters. You could cut them out. You could make your own flyers and put them on the box. So if you want to have a small box in your classroom, I would suggest have your students make it and just use an old cardboard box that you have. Let's see. Oh, okay. Well, Harry suggests that this is a nice activity to do when you're out of the classroom and you have a substitute. So I would say that's probably some great news. Thank you. You're welcome. Let's see what else. Okay. Well, I think that's it in terms of the questions that we have. But if there's any more, I'll wait another few minutes if anybody wants to hang around and ask a few more questions. But other than that, you can always email us. You can email me directly. My name is Erica Berlin, and that's EBERLIN at fundingfactory.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And like I said, when you're ready to get going with the curriculum, all you have to do is go to fundingfactory.com/EcoBuddies and register your classroom or your school or whatever organization you're with. And then you can download the curriculum immediately as a PDF. So you can get started tomorrow if you want. All right, it seems like the questions have come to a close. And I just want to thank Karen for being here and really the whole Mailbox team, because working with them has been such a pleasure. You know, from our perspective, we wanted to provide this education and they really brought it to life in this curriculum. So I highly recommend it. I'm thinking that in the future, I would love to have some of you who are going to implement the curriculum in your classroom. Maybe we'll do another webinar, maybe this spring around Earth Day, and have some of you featured talking about how the curriculum works for you in your classroom. And I would love to do that. So if you start using the curriculum and you find that you like it, I'd love to hear from you and hear your thoughts. And maybe we can feature you in an upcoming webinar. So thanks, everyone. I appreciate you being here. And looks like we just made it on time, a little few minutes over, but I hope you have a great afternoon, everyone.